She just came, Judge, at like 1:12 and sat in this room right here.
Okay, well, I don't know what happened. All I know is that, we can't have any of that in front of this jury. And luckily, there were no jurors in the area at the time. So everyone has got to be able to keep their emotions in check. I understand that this is obviously very painful for some of the people seated in the audience. However, the sanctity of this whole trial and the legitimacy of this whole trial depends upon everyone being able to contain their emotions so as not to influence this jury in any manner whatsoever. So if at any point during the trial people cannot maintain their composure, you will be asked to leave the courtroom and you won't be allowed back in until you have established you can remain calm. All right? Okay, so who is going to be our next witness?
Alyson Rivers, Your Honor.
And you all want me to go ahead and read the stipulation now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, that's fine. Yes.
In light of what the court just indicated, which is the first time I've heard anything about it, I would ask that prior to Eboni Wiley taking the stand, it sounds like she was somehow involved.
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know. It had, everyone's guessing because no one knows the players involved, but the bailiff that witnessed the altercation thought that it may have something to do with a witness.
Okay.
I don't know.
So, in particular, just in case it relates to Eboni Wiley, I would like an opportunity to do a brief follow-up depot on her, just as to that issue, to see if there's anything there before she takes the stand. I don't know what it is, I don't know anything about it.
Is she here right now?
Yes, Judge.
Why don't you go talk to her right now about it?
That's fine.
Step outside, because I don't even know if it was her. I have no idea.
Okay.
But why don't you just talk to her to see if it was? So just so you know, there was something about someone flipping a cup or something. This is why hearsay is not admissible in a court of law. It's all very speculative.
Judge, just to clear the record up, Mr. Brunvon and I spoke to Miss Wiley, and she wasn't involved in any incident.
Okay,
She doesn't know what we're talking about.
all right, me either.
Okay.
So we'll just go forward.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, with that, are we ready to bring in the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Mr. Brunvon?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Defendant is present for the record. Let's bring them.
All right, we are set for everybody.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Have a seat. All right, we are ready to proceed. I do have something I have to read to you all, however. When the parties agree that certain facts are true, that is called a stipulation of fact. You must accept stipulated facts as having been proven. However, the significance of these facts, as with all of the facts, is for you to decide. In this case, the stipulated fact that you must accept as true is stipulation to identity. It is hereby stipulated by and between the defendant Granville Ritchie and the state of Florida that Felicia Williams, named in the indictment in this cause, was found deceased on May 17, 2014, along the shoreline on the north side of the Courtney Campbell Causeway in Clearwater, Pinellas County, Florida. An autopsy was performed on Felicia Williams' body on May 18, 2014 by Dr. Wayne D. Kurtz, MD. We hereby certify that the foregoing stipulation is made in good faith and for the reasons herein alleged, dated the 16th day of September 2019, and is signed by Scott Harmon, Assistant State Attorney, the defendant Granville Ritchie, and Bjorn Brunvon, counsel for the defendant. All right, state card next witness.
State calls Alyson Rivers.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You step up here, please. Have a seat and we'll stand.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court.
Yep.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Would you please state your name and spell both names, please?
Alyson Rivers, Alyson, last name Rivers.
Maybe I can push this down a little bit so you don't have to. You're speaking with a good loud voice, so please keep that up. Ms. Rivers, where do you currently live?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
And did you used to live here in Tampa?
Yes,
And did you grow up in this area?
I did.
And what do you do currently?
I am a student in a physician assistant program in Philadelphia,
Okay, and what school do you go to?
Arcadia University.
In May of 2014, did you live here in Tampa?
Yes,
And were you employed at a local CVS pharmacy here in Tampa?
yes,
And in fact, was that in the city of Temple Terrace?
yes.
And can you tell us the location of that CVS?
It was on Bullard and 56th.
Okay. So directionally, would it be on the north side of Bullard and then to the east of 56th Street?
I'm not certain.
Okay. Was there a fire station next door to it?
Yes,
Okay. Did that CVS pharmacy have a security camera system that had cameras within the facility?
yes,
Was there a camera that pointed towards the inside of the front door?
yes,
And did that record people coming and going into the store?
yes.
And what was your position at CVS in May of 2014?
I was a cashier.
All right. And on occasion, would that have you working the front register?
Yes.
Was the front register located near the front door?
Yes, it was on the immediate right of the front door.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States BB, and I understand you probably have not previously seen this. So I'm going to direct your attention on this exhibit that this would be 56th Street, and this would be Bullard,
Yep.
and that would be the fire station.
Yes,
Do you see the CVS location you worked at?
I do.
Can you point to it? Okay. So let me publish it. I'm going to ask you to just look at that monitor up there. Ms. Blevins, can you help me resetting this to the elbow?
Did we get rid of the green arrow too, by the way? Okay.
We
good.
did.
It's gone.
Okay. All right. Ms. Rivers, I'm going to point here to this label CVS. Is that where you just showed me?
Yes, sir.
That's the CVS you worked at?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Rivers, do you recall in late May of 2014, on May 21st, a Temple Terrace Police Department officer coming to your residence and interviewing you?
I do.
And do you recall the incident that he interviewed you about?
Yes.
Okay. Using that as a reference, I'm going to go to May 16th of 2014, which would have been a Friday. In the early evening, around 6 o'clock, were you working at the CVS at that time?
I was.
And going back to the incident the officer talked to you about, do you recall a young woman coming into the store?
Yes.
And if you could just describe her to us.
I think she had to be about like 5'6", young black woman.
Okay. Do you recall when she came into the store where she went?
When she entered the store, she came immediately to me. I was at the cash register.
Okay. And when she approached you, do you remember noticing anything about her emotional state?
She did seem distressed, as if she were about to cry.
Okay. And when she approached you, did she, under that emotional state, did she ask you something if you had seen somebody in the store?
Yes.
What did she ask you?
She asked me if I had seen a 9-year-old black girl around the store, and I said no.
Okay. And how long had you been working on that shift at that point?
I think about 3 hours.
All right. And did you then ask someone else in the store if they had seen a small 9-year-old black girl walking around the store?
Yes.
And who was that?
It was the shift supervisor at the time.
And had he seen the girl?
No.
And when you told this young woman who had come into the store that, what happened next?
She started to tear up. She started crying, and then she just left.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to take a look at a video recording that's contained on a disc?
Yes.
All right. And I'm going to show you states G as in golf. And do you recognize the disc?
Yes.
Have you viewed a video that is contained on this disc earlier today?
Yes, sir.
And did you initial the disc and date it today's date?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that video recording, is that an accurate depiction of the lady that you've told us about coming into the store on the 16th around 6 o'clock and then leaving?
Yes, sir.
All right. Your Honor, our tender states G.
Any objection?
No objection.
Admitted?
And move to publish, Your Honor.
Yes.
The woman who just walked in and out of the store with the striped dress on, is that the young woman?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And obviously the video is moving at a more rapid clip than real time. How long do you think that she was in the store from the time she entered to when she left?
No more than 3 minutes.
Okay. So she approached, asked the questions, you talked to her, the manager answered, and then she walked out?
Yes.
Okay. You have one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
I'll tender the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Ross?
No, thank you.
Okay, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Here you go. Ready for your next witness?
State would call Tom Ross.
Merci.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ross.
Hi.
Can you please state your first and your last name?
Thomas Ross,
And back in May of 2014, who did you work for?
Checkers Drive-In Restaurants,
And what position did you hold at that time?
Loss Prevention Administrator,
How long did you work at Checkers for?
24 years,
And where was your office located?
4300 West Cypress Street.
So were you at an actual like drive-through restaurant location, or were you at an office building that contained the company Checkers?
Office building.
Back on May 22nd of 2014, did you provide law enforcement with a receipt and a video transaction that they had requested via subpoena?
Yes,
On that subpoena, did it list parameters with regards to location, date, and time that was requested of you to provide documents?
yes,
Mr. Ross, I'm going to show you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit E for identification purposes. Have you previously seen this receipt?
yes,
And is this a fair and accurate copy of the receipt that you provided to law enforcement pursuant to that subpoena?
yes,
State offers an evidence State's Exhibit E.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Admitted?
Permission to publish?
Yes.
Mr. Ross, When there's a subpoena that is sent to your office and is requested to provide documentation, how do you go about accessing or finding that document?
We would receive the subpoena. I would see what the parameters are for what they needed. And then I had the ability to dial into whichever restaurant it would be. I would then open up a program on their computer which would be able to go back and pull whatever I needed. That's for the receipt. Now, for the cameras, that was done on a program that was on my computer that I could just view any restaurant.
Now, these records, are they kept in a normal course of business through checkers?
Yes,
And the computer system that logs in date and time of these transactions, is that done via the computer, that it
Yes.
automatically updates as to the time and date?
yes,
And if law enforcement makes such a request as they did in this case, are you that person to retrieve these records for them?
yes.
Do you know how long these records are kept?
No,
But in May, at the end of May of 2014, you were still able to access the information that law enforcement had requested?
yes,
Okay. So if we'll start at the top here. Over in the left-hand corner, it states Checkers Temple Terrace, 8800 North 56th Street, Temple Terrace, 33617. Was that the location that had been requested documents be provided from?
yes,
Under the audit report, it says date of business, May 16th of 2014. Was that the date that the record had been requested from, or the date that they were interested in receiving records from?
yes,
And over on the right, it says page 2, May 22nd, 2014 at 8:30 a.m. Is that the date that you in fact retrieved the item from the program and provided it?
yes.
Can you tell us about the information list in the middle under transaction where it starts with 179 CHKR space BG W/CZCM? What does that mean?
Those are abbreviations from each menu item. The numbers at the beginning are the cost. So like the CMB, that would be a combo. The fries and the drink MD, those would be medium.
So this order that takes place with the first being the 179 item and the last one being the 179 item Coke small combo, is that one transaction?
Yes,
Then below, the next line, it states 3:49 p.m. order items. It says EMP and then a number, Esther. What is that?
so that's the employee number of the cashier that was assigned to that register.
And does that Esther transaction go to the above big order, or does it go just below where it then says $2 shrimp box, $1.99 Sprite medium?
Just for the below items.
Okay. So is it fair to say that the shrimp box and this medium Sprite, the transaction time was at 3:49 p.m.?
Yes,
What is the next line, 3:50 p.m. apply payment Visa, and then gives numbers and letters after that?
so that was the order that you see part of at the top.
So the 350 apply payment being the Visa on PS 322, that payment, which is 1965 down below, goes to the big order
Yes,
that's first listed.
yes,
The next line saying 3:50 p.m. apply payment Visa on DS 228. What does that payment of 427 go to?
the Esther order.
The shrimp box and the medium Sprite.
Yes,
When are you able to tell, because Checkers usually has drive-throughs on a passenger side of a vehicle and the driver's side of the vehicle. Are you able to tell, based upon looking at this receipt, which side the person drove up for on the shrimp box and medium Sprite?
The driver's side, and it's noted by the DS 228, that's driver's side.
And then the one above it that was the 1965 payment being PS, does that mean the passenger side?
Yes,
Did you also provide video footage to law enforcement on this?
yes,
Did this location at the time have outside cameras or only inside cameras?
only inside.
So if it was inside, was it basically showing the cashier ringing up and providing the food to the person that was outside the window?
Yes,
So there was no way to capture who had driven on the outside, is that fair to say?
that's fair to say.
May I have a moment, Judge?
Yes.
State would pass the witness, Judge.
Okay, Ross? All right, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're free to go.
Thank you.
Okay, Steve, who's your next witness?
Judge, give me 1 moment.
Yep.
State will call Kelly Walker.
Okay.
Stop, you face the clerk, she will swear you in.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Kids, step over here, please, and have a seat and let us stand.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sir, would you please state your name and spell both names, please?
Kelly Walker, Kellywalker.
Mr. Walker, what do you do for a living?
I am a records custodian / testifier.
Okay. And is that the actual duty title that you hold?
Yes,
And who do you work for?
T-Mobile.
Right. And sometime in the past, did T-Mobile merge and purchase Metro PCS?
Yes,
And is Metro PCS still a separately branded cell phone company?
yes,
But T-Mobile and Metro PCS are the same company?
yes,
And do you act as a records custodian for both companies' cell phone records?
yes,
Are you familiar with their cell phone records for both companies?
yes,
And are you familiar with the business practices of both T-Mobile and Metro PCS as to maintenance of those records and how they're created?
yes.
Sir, I'm going to show you a couple of sets of records. First, I'll show you states V as in Victor, V1. Do you recognize that record?
Yes.
Okay. And what type of record is that?
Subscriber information, which is information that would have been provided once the account was opened.
By the customer?
Yes,
And that's stored electronically in a record by the company?
yes,
States V2. Have you previously seen these records?
yes.
And are these, well, tell me what those records are, so I'm not putting words in your mouth.
It's a listing of the call transactions for a specific date period.
Okay. And do the records identify the customer number or phone number?
Yes,
The assigned phone number, I guess, for that account?
yes,
And states DD1, which I don't think you have seen previously, but again, are these the same types of records for a separate account, a different account?
yes.
All right. All of these records that now are in front of you, are they all records that are generated through a regularly conducted business activity of T-Mobile or Metro PCS?
Yes,
And do the records contain information that is a record of certain events such as phone calls or cell phone activity?
Yes.
And are the documents in front of you, do they record the activity at or near the time that that activity has occurred?
Yes.
All right. And is it a regular business activity of T-Mobile and Metro PCS to store and maintain those records?
Yes.
Your Honor, I tender all of those exhibits for admission, states V1, V2, V3, and states DD1.
Any objection?
No.
Admitted?
Actually, it states V1, V2, and DD1.
So no V3.
Not yet.
Okay. So at this point, it's V1, V2, and V3.
Yes, Your Honor. May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sal. I failed to put V3 in front of you. Have you previously seen the state's V3?
Yes.
Okay, now V3 is a CD, and have you viewed the digital contents of the disc?
Yes.
And does that also contain records generated by Metro PCS or T-Mobile?
Yes.
All right, now I'd ask you the same questions about the records in V3. Are they records that are maintained as a regular course or regularly conducted business activity by Metro PCS or T-Mobile?
Yes.
And do they contain information that is stored or recorded at the time that whatever that information is arising from occurs?
Yes.
All right. And is it a regular business activity to store and maintain the records?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I tender all these exhibits for admission.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Admitted?
All right. So with these records, are these records also stored and maintained for purposes, at least in some instances, of billing?
Yes.
Are the records accurate as to date and time of the events that occurred within them?
Yes.
And would it be fair to say that the accuracy of the documents would only go to the benefit of the company as far as being able to bill correctly?
Correct.
And make sure they bill for every event that occurs or for everything that they're entitled to bill for?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm going to start with states V3, the information contained on this disk. What kind of information is that?
Cell sites, which is cell tower information.
All right. And does it contain the physical or latitude, longitude coordinates for cell towers?
Yes.
And do each of the cell towers within the switch area of whatever geographic area you're in, like here we're in Tampa Bay, do each cell tower in the network have its own identifying individual number assigned to that cell tower?
Yes.
And is that how they're identified in that index or log of cell towers?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to publish states V1. I'm ask you to just look over your right shoulder at the screen. Okay, so we have a document, and I'll back out just briefly here. We have the Metro PCS title, and then up here, what does this indicate?
Just what the document is, subscriber information, subscriber records.
And there are, looks like 4 columns, vertical columns that each have several horizontal lines going through them. So let's start with the top. On the orange-colored lines in the document, in the top of the first column, it indicates subscriber name. What information is contained within that vertical column underneath it?
It's going to give you the name that would have been provided at the time that the account was opened. It gives you the phone number that that name is pertaining to for the mobile device number, as well as then it gives you the kind of phone that that person was using.
And in the cell phone industry, are the phones themselves referred to also as handsets?
Yes.
So in this case, the first subscriber we see, who is the subscriber name?
It shows Bernice Gibson,
All right, and what is the associated cell phone number to that account?
813-793-5727.
And the phone model?
It's pronounced like Alcatel. That's the model number, 5020N.
And then in the second column over, subscriber address, is that the address of the person whose account, or who holds the account?
The address that would have been provided at the time the account was open.
Okay, that's the address the person provides, that the customer provides.
Correct.
And then below that account number, does each account, cell phone account, have its own identifying account number?
Yes.
Below that, the MIN and IMSI, what do those columns or those brackets stand for?
Those are internal numbers in order for the device to be able to communicate with the network.
And then over into the third column, subscriber status. Can you just walk us through those different lines and what they are representing?
Yes, active just lets you know that the account was still open and active at the time that this search was completed. Account activation date lets you know the date that the account was opened. The ESN MEI, that's the serial number for the handset, the phone device. And then the IC SID, again, that's just internal numbers, but it deals with the device and for the device to be able to communicate with the network.
Okay. So in this case, this record, this subscriber record, was searched from May 16th of 14 to an end date of 5/18/2014, is that correct?
Correct.
So that's the date that these records were generated and provided to law enforcement.
Could have been a couple of days after that, but that's just the date range that we would have searched for in response to the legal demand.
Okay. So Ms. Gibson's account is active with an activation date of February 1st, 14?
Correct.
All right. And then over into this last column, account termination date, the fact that there's nothing there, what does that mean?
That means that the account is still open.
All right. And then device network type?
That's just letting you know that T-Mobile Metro uses a GSM.
And what does GSM stand for?
It's global, I forgot, sorry.
Okay, all right. Is it a certain type of technology the tower utilizes or the
Yes.
network utilizes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and if we go, and then we kind of jumped it from this first column up here. Search type MDN, what does that stand for?
That just means that that was the information provided per the legal demand to search by, which would have been the mobile device number.
Okay. And then a number was given to Metro PCS to search,
Yes.
and the 813-793-5727?
Yes.
And then that would be the same as over here in the subscriber section, the actual phone number assigned to that account?
Correct.
So then moving down to the second subscriber, the search number here is 727-288-3413, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And the subscriber name is John Smith?
Yes.
So let me ask you about that. Are customers required when they open an account with T-Mobile or Metro PCS, and were they required back in 2014 to give their real legal name?
For Metro, no. T-Mobile, yes.
And these are Metro records.
Correct.
So John Smith could have been a fraudulent or just not a real name.
Correct.
Okay. And is that a common pseudonym, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, or a common fake name that's given?
It's a common name in general, so yes, it has been used in that, skin say fraud or improper or whatever word.
But the fact that it says John Smith holds the account does not mean that an actual person named John Smith holds the account.
Yeah, we wouldn't know.
And the MDN number is the same as the search number, 727-288-3413?
Correct.
And then the Kyocera is, again, the type or model of phone itself or handset?
Yes.
And then over here, subscriber address, 8855 Doral Oaks Drive, Tampa, Florida, with a zip code?
Correct.
That's the address given by the individual who was subscribing or creating the account, opening the account.
Correct.
The account number you've already told us is an individual, unique number given to each separate account.
Correct.
Okay. And then you indicated the MIN and the IMSI are numbers that relate to connectivity between the handset and the cell phone network.
Correct.
So now moving over to the third column, subscriber status. Does it indicate that account is active?
Yes.
And what is the activation date?
4/28/2014.
And I believe we've already talked about those two numbers. And you do not have an account termination date.
Correct.
And then again, the device network type is the same.
Correct.
And now moving down to the last column. Your search number was 813-900-1494, is that correct?
Yes.
And the subscriber name is Eboni Wiley,
Yes.
Y-I-L-E-I, is that correct?
Correct.
With the same account name, and the MDN, the assigned cell phone number to that account is the same as the search number?
Yes.
Type of phone is a Nokia Lumia, is that right?
Yes.
Subscriber address is this Ida Street address?
Correct.
In the record? And again, we have the unique account number, unique only to that account, right?
Correct.
And then in the last column, I'm sorry, in the third column, the account is active with an account activation date of March 19th, 2014.
Yes.
And there's nothing in the account termination date because as of those search dates, May 16th through May 18th, the account was still active.
Correct.
We'll move on to states B2 and moving to publish or publishing. So you're going to tell us again, if you could, Mr. Walker, what type of record this is? What is it referred to within Metro PCS's company?
Call records, so it's the listing of the call transactions for a specific date period.
Okay. And do the records list each individual phone call that occurs on the record?
Yes.
And does it assign or provide a date and time for that phone call?
Yes.
If the phone was answered and there was a conversation or the phone is held open to the network, is there an associated lapse of time or a time elapsed section on the records
Yes.
that tells you the time or the length of the phone call?
Correct.
Do the records indicate whether the phone call is incoming to the phone or being placed by the whoever holds the phone and is placing it going outgoing?
Correct. Yes.
All right. Do the records also reflect voicemail activity?
Yes.
All right. And do the records indicate which cell tower within the network is being utilized by that cell tower's identification number?
Yes.
And would that include both the cell tower that the call starts on and the cell tower that the call ends on?
Correct. Yes.
On occasion in the records, or in your experience, do cell phone calls start on one tower and finish on another?
It all depends on the person's activity. Majority of the records that I've seen based on my work experience has all been like start on the same and end on the same.
Okay. And if the person's moving, like driving in a car, is it not uncommon to start on one tower and end on another?
No, that's not uncommon.
Okay. That's something that will be seen within the records?
Yes.
Okay, and then there are multiple vertical columns on here, so I kind of want to walk through these with you. We'll start with the far, as you look at the page, left-hand column. Let me zoom in. So let's just start with the very top. Is there a line across the top of each page of this document? And you would agree with me, this is a multiple page document. There's multiple pages to this search record.
Yes.
And the title of these are call detail records?
Yes.
All right. And at the bottom of the page, the number of the pages, in this case 23 pages is indicated, correct?
Yes.
And each page has its own page number.
Yes.
So at the top, there's going to be a label basically for each of these columns. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So the first column is date, the second column is time, and then you have duration and so on, correct?
Correct.
All right, so let's start with date. Let's take the very first phone call or phone activity. The date is 5/17/2014. Now, the time says 15:15:08. What does that stand for?
3:15.
Okay, so that's military or 24-hour clock time?
Correct.
So 3:15 and 08 seconds, is that when the phone connects to the network or when the call initiates?
Yes, when it connects to the network.
Okay. And in this instance, is this an incoming or outgoing call?
When you look under the fourth column, direction, it lets you know it's an incoming call.
All right. The third column gives the duration or the length of the call?
Correct. And that's in seconds.
It's in seconds. Okay, so here it would be 0, so that's 35 seconds.
Yes.
Now, since it's an incoming call, the dialed number bracket appears to be empty. Is that why? Because it's incoming?
Yes.
And the person would not be dialing anything because it's an incoming call?
Correct.
All right. So then the next column is labeled destination number. Is that correct? The
Yes.
DEST?
Yes. Destination.
All right. Now, in this instance, the destination number is the same as the account number, correct?
Correct.
And these, we didn't even talk about that. The search number up here, the account number is 727-288-3413.
Correct.
And the search dates for these records are between May 16, 14 and May 18, 14.
Yes.
The next column, it says status answered. What does that mean, or what does that stand for?
Exactly what it means is that that call was answered by the handset.
Okay. Special features, what does that mean, or what is the information contained in that bracket?
That has to do with some of the codes, which pretty much is internal. And it just lets you know, like, this was just part of the plan that that person had.
Now, caller ID. In this case, it's 813-793-5727. What does that column represent, or what is the information contained in that column?
From what the phone and network picked up for the number that was calling the target number, that's the number that it picked up. That's the number provided.
So the destination number, when it's an incoming call, would be the actual person whose account they hold, that number, the account number. Or not the account number, but the phone number assigned to that account.
Correct.
On an incoming call.
Yes.
Okay. And the caller ID is going to give the number that's actually calling that number, calling that account.
Yes.
Switch number, what does that stand for?
Just the switch that would have been used, so internal.
And sector number?
Lets you know the side of the tower that received the call.
And each tower has multiple sectors depending on the type of antennas that are being utilized or the number of antennas.
Correct. Yes.
And then you have an LAC column and a tower column. What is the information contained in the LAC column? What does that represent?
Again, that deals with internal. It's another name that they use for our switch and tower. And then, like, tower information gives you the actual tower that was used for that phone call.
Okay. So in this case, tower number 14811 was being utilized?
Correct.
So if someone wanted to take states V3, which is a log of all the tower numbers, they could locate that tower number and then locate the physical address and the latitude, longitude coordinates for that tower.
Correct.
Now, there are 4 more columns. The next one, again, let me go back. For these 4 full columns that are appearing on the screen right now, we see this bracketed off up here on the top, and it's under beginning cell. What does that stand for?
That's the cell that the call started on.
Okay, so this tower number by my finger, 14811, is the tower number where the call is beginning?
Yes.
Okay. And then we move into the last 4 columns, which fall under ending cell. And is that just the ending cell tower that the call ended on?
Yes.
And in this case, it was the same tower number, is that right?
Correct.
Same sector, even?
Correct.
Going back to the time column in the date column. In this situation, is the time reported in Eastern Standard Time?
Yes.
I want to go down to a column. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so the column above where my finger is 5/16/2014, 17:06 and 47 seconds. Is that correct as far as time?
Yes.
So that would be 5:06 p.m. and 47 seconds.
Yes.
Okay. Now, that call had a duration of 11 seconds. It's indicated as an incoming call. The destination number is, again, the number, the assigned cell phone number to that account. And then it indicates not answered. Calling line ID presentation is indicated in the next bracket. Is that simply an incoming call that was not answered, or does that in any way implicate the voicemail of the phone?
Yeah, that was letting us know that it wasn't answered.
It wasn't answered, okay.
Correct.
And the caller ID bracket, which we're in here, the number's 813-989-7111, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then going to the next bracket down from that. So now we're at 17:06, 5:06 and 58 seconds, again 11 seconds. And now this says outgoing call to 805-637-7249. What is occurring in that, with that information in that bracket?
Due to that call not being answered, it was sent to voicemail.
Okay, so this 805-637-7249, is that the actual telephone number for the voicemail?
Yes, when you look at it on your, when you put the letters on your phone, it spells out message.
Message?
Yes.
So if I'm following, this call that came in at 17:06:47, since it wasn't answered, is reported in the next column as going into voicemail.
Yes.
It calls voicemail.
Correct.
Okay. So then, underneath special features, it says none, and in parentheses 29, or in columns 29. What does that stand for?
Just letting it know that it went to voicemail.
And the caller ID here is going to be blank. Is that consistent with voicemail activity?
Yes.
At 17:06:58 and 58 seconds, is there another incoming call with a duration of 11 seconds?
Yes.
And again, this is 5:06 p.m. and 58 seconds, correct?
Correct.
All right. This is indicating that it is answered, and it has the same caller ID number. So the phone call's coming from the same caller ID,
Yes,
same phone number?
yes,
And in fact, going to the next column, 1709, so now we're at 5:09 and 28 seconds. There's a 35-second duration incoming call. That's not answered. Coming from the same phone number, correct?
yes,
All right, just to show that. So we're still talking about the 9897111 phone number, correct?
yes,
Okay. And in this instance, as previously, that's not answered. The next column, I'm sorry, and the next column is 5:10:03. You have an incoming call. Again, this is 4 seconds in duration, is that right?
yes,
And that's coming from the same phone number,
yes,
7111 phone number at the end of the phone number.
yes,
And in that situation, that call is going into the next column as an outgoing call to voicemail, is that correct?
correct,
So all this activity from the same phone call or same phone number calling this number from 1706 to 1710 is coming from the same phone number, is that right?
yes,
The 7111 number, the 9897111 number, right?
yes,
Okay. And it shows voicemail is activated twice.
yes,
I know we looked at these earlier. I'm going to ask if you could just look through these. And tell me if going through these you see any areas where you encounter text messages in these cell phone records.
no,
Okay. Does it appear that these were ordered records for call activity?
yes,
Texting activity can be ordered in separate records for SMS or text records.
yes,
Do either T-Mobile or Metro PCS maintain content of text messages for any length of time?
no,
Okay. So if law enforcement was to order text records asking for the content of text records, they're not going to get them from T-Mobile or Metro PCS?
no,
And going back again now, this is States v. 2, just publishing briefly, going back to the DIR column, I may have asked you, but is that direction?
Yes.
Okay. So when you have incoming call, outgoing call, incoming call, outgoing call, does that signify, when you look at a record, that those are all phone calls being made, utilizing the phone system?
Yes.
Instead of sending a text message or an SMS message?
That along with the duration column.
The duration?
Yes.
If they were text messages, what would the duration be, or what would it indicate?
It will just show a flat 60 seconds.
And that's on all text messages?
Yes.
All right. So these records don't contain text messages, just calls?
Yes.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll tell you the witness.
Okay, cross.
You want the records?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
There was some testimony about Metro PCS and their rules as far as the name that's used when you open an account with Metro PCS.
Yes.
Okay. And the suggestion was made that, maybe that's for fraudulent purposes, right?
I just used that word.
Right, okay. Would it be fair to say that probably Metro PCS, in allowing people to use different names, it certainly wasn't their intent to be, participants in fraud, right?
Correct.
Okay. And it was just a feature that they had as part of their program that allowed people to, put down a name other than their real name, right?
Correct.
And it was known that people could do that, and so they weren't really tricking anyone, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, redirect.
Just briefly, so the proper word would have been probably fake. They're fake names, not real names.
Yes.
I have nothing else.
Okay, thank you. May this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. You're free to go. All right, who's going to be your next witness?
State calls Eboni Wiley.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Step up this way, please. Have a seat in the witness stand.
You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Wiley.
Hello.
Can you please state your first and your last name, spelling your last name and your first name?
Eboni Wiley, Eboni Wiley.
Ms. Wiley, are you currently employed?
No,
Did you graduate from high school?
no,
What was the furthest that you made it?
12,
Okay, and how old are you?
29.
Were you employed back in May of 2014?
Yes,
Where were you employed?
Whispering Oaks Nursing Home. Whispering Oaks Nursing Home.
And what did you do for Whispering Oaks Nursing Home?
Housekeeping.
I know that you are answering quickly, so make sure that I get my whole question out and let the court reporter take down what I say, and then you can answer, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Because she can't type down when two people are talking at the same time,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? You said you worked in housekeeping.
Yes, ma'am.
How long did you work there for?
Probably like 4 or 5 months.
Were you working there on May 16th and 17th of 2014?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your normal shift or hours there?
73.
7 a.m. to 3 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you work a full day there on May 16th?
Yes.
Did you work a full day on the 17th?
No.
Do you have any prior convictions or crimes involving dishonesty?
No, ma'am.
Do you currently have a charge pending against you?
Yes.
Do you know for what crime?
Lying to an investigator about a missing person.
Giving false information
Yes.
to an investigator regarding a missing child?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you pled guilty to that charge yet?
No.
Do you know that the maximum sentence that you can receive for that crime is 5 years in Florida State Prison?
Yes.
Have you been made any promises whatsoever from the state attorney's office with regards to any sentence that you may receive for testifying here in court?
No.
Do you know Felicia Williams?
Yes.
And how long did you know her prior to May 16th of 2014?
Probably like a good 8 months, I believe, 7 or 8 months.
How did you meet Felicia Williams?
I was staying in a rooming house and she stayed next door to me.
And did she live in a rooming house next door, or did she live in a home?
A home.
Did you and Felicia Williams become close?
Yes.
Can you describe the kind of relationship that you and Felicia Williams had?
It's like a mother and daughter. I fed her. If she needed anything, I gave it to her. It was a very close relationship of like a mother and a daughter relationship.
Did you think of yourself as like a pseudo godmother to her?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you see each other daily or a couple times a week? How-
Daily. She'll make sure she comes see me.
What kinds of things would you and Felicia Williams do together?
We'll walk to the store, we'll get on the bicycle and go out to eat. That's pretty much it. Go to the park sometimes, church. My mom had church events in our backyard. She'll come over there. And that's pretty much it.
Did you also have a relationship with Felicia Williams' older sisters?
Yeah.
Did you also do things with them?
They'll string along. If they see us doing something, they'll come along.
Were you closest with Felicia Williams compared to her and her sisters? Were you
Yes,
closest with Felicia?
Yes, ma'am.
What other sisters would you do things with?
They'll string along with us. If they see us going to the store, they'll go along with us.
And what were their names?
I'm not sure how to pronounce their first names, but it was Fatty Girl and Cha Cha.
I'm sorry.
Fatty Girl and Cha Cha, not Cha Cha, I'm sorry, Jonicia, I'm not sure what's the other sister name is. And they'll bring their little sister Brenda right along with them.
So Fatty Girl, is that Jeremicia's nickname?
Yes.
Okay. And did you always call them by their nickname?
Yes, I did.
What was Felicia's nickname?
Sugar Plum. Sugar Plum.
And you said Jeremicia, Fatty Girl, you would hang out with her. Did you ever hang out with their older sister, Cha Cha, or who also?
No. They'll come over there and visit.
You would visit sometimes?
No, they'll come to my, if I was staying in the room, when I was staying in the room house, they'll come over there and visit.
Okay. And Cha Cha, her name is Charlicia?
Yes.
Did you know someone by the name of Granville Ritchie?
He gave me his name was Trevor.
Okay. Did you later learn that his name was Granville Ritchie?
Yes.
Do you see him here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you please point to him and describe an article of clothing that he's wearing?
Gray and baby blue.
Can you please point in which direction? And where is he sitting at the table?
He's here right there.
The third person in?
Yes.
Please let the record reflect she's identified the defendant.
Record shall so reflect.
Did you meet this person who first identified themselves as Trevor? Where did you initially meet that person?
I was walking down the street with Fatty Girl. Was on the way to going to the store, and he seen me. We caught eye contact. I walked on the back road, and he pulled up behind us and put up, and he tried to talk to me.
Now, when you said you were walking down the street, you said that you were with Fatty Girl?
Mm-hmm.
Is that Jeremicia?
Yes.
And where were you all going?
To the store.
Was this in the middle of the day and the night?
It's in the middle of the day.
Was anybody else with you, or was that only you and Jeremicia?
It was just me and her.
Was that time that you and Jeremicia were spending together?
Well, she had walked past my house, and I was like, you want to go to the store? And I got my food stamp card, and then she was like, yeah. And then we walked to the store.
And when you said that he had pulled up behind you, can you describe how that happened?
He pulled up, and he was like, what's up? And I was like, hey. And he was trying to talk to me. He said, I thought you was a young girl. I was like, no. And
Let me stop you for a minute. Was he, you said he was driving?
yes,
What kind of vehicle was he in?
it was a silver Lexus vehicle.
A silver Lexus?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you speak first to him, or did he speak to you first?
He spoke to me first.
And what was the first thing that he said to you?
He said, hey. I was like, hey. And he was like, I was trying to make sure that you wasn't no little girl. I was like, no.
I'm sorry, he said, I was
trying to make sure that you wasn't no young girl. And I was like, no. And that's when he proceeded to talk to me, and he got my number, I got his.
Was he insinuating that you were a young girl?
Because I looked at him, he was like, no, I just don't want the police to come up behind me and say you young. I was like, no, I'm old enough. And he proceeded to communicate with me and talk, and that's when he gave me his number, and we ended up talking on the phone.
When you said that you were old enough, what did you mean by that? That you were
I was
old enough?
over age. I was over age, yes.
Over age in order to be able to get in an adult relationship.
Correct.
Did Jeremicia engage in any conversation with that man at that time?
Not really. At the end, she was like, don't call her after 12. And I was like, oh, no, stay out of my conversation. I got this. And that's when we proceeded to talk on the phone. Well, he called me on the phone.
And so when you two were talking there, did you give him your phone number?
Yes.
And did he give you his phone number?
Right.
How soon after, or how long were you there talking with the defendant?
Less than 5 minutes, I believe.
How long after? Did you walk away first, or did he drive off?
I walk away first.
How long after you walked off, did he then call you, or did you call him?
I'm not sure, but I know as soon as I walked off, he pulled off, we was on the phone.
Do you know if you called him first or he called you first?
I'm not sure.
Did you all continue to communicate while you walked back?
Yeah, we talked on the phone like for 2 or 3 minutes.
Where is it that you went to with Jeremicia after the store?
To my house.
Do you know how long before May 16th of 2017 did this interaction, or did you meet this man named Trevor?
I don't understand that question.
How long, how many days, weeks, or months before May 16th of 2014 did you meet the defendant?
I just met him.
You met him, and so
And
how
then
many
we-
days passed before that Friday, May 16th?
So I think it's like 3 days, 2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days?
Yes, ma'am.
Then May 16th of
Yes, 3
2014?
days. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Just need to make sure that I get to answer my question before you speak, okay?
yes, ma'am. Sorry.
So it was not very long that you had known Granville Ritchie before May 16th of 2014?
Correct.
2 or 3 days?
Correct.
On that day when you met him, were you still living in the boarding house, or were you living somewhere else
I was staying with my mom.
with your mother?
Yes.
And where did she live?
On 17th Street. On 19th Street, I believe. I forgot the address. It was like a couple of blocks from the rooming house.
So you were not living as close to Felicia Williams at that time?
I was living close. I was living right around the corner from my job, which is Richmond Oaks. like
But-
a block away.
But not next door like you were living in?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
You're right.
Do you recall when you moved to your mother's home?
No, I can't recall it.
Do you remember how long you lived next door in that rooming house to Felicia Williams?
Probably like 4 months, I believe.
When was the next time you saw the defendant after you met him when you were walking with Jeremicia?
I seen him that night.
That night?
When I met him that day, I seen him that night.
And where is it that you saw him?
He came and got me.
Was this like a date?
Yes.
And how did it come about that this date was going to happen? Was it talked to about over the phone prior to him picking you up?
When I got home, I think he had called me again, and then he was like, he wanted to spend some time with me. So I guess we made it as a date.
And did you meet up somewhere? Did he come pick you up?
He came pick me up.
And what did he arrive in? Did he walk there or drive there?
He drove there.
And what was he driving?
The silver Lexus.
The same silver Lexus you had seen him in earlier that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And where is it that he picked you up from?
My mom's house.
Do you recall about what time this was at?
I know it was that night.
And what did you and the defendant do?
Oh, we drunk. He provided me drugs.
Okay, when you said you drunk, what did you
as
drink?
Hennessy. Yeah, I bought a bottle. He provided me drugs.
Where were you at?
What you mean?
Were you out at a restaurant? Were
No,
you
we was at the apartments, Dora Oaks Apartments.
at the Doral Oaks Apartments?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you do anything or go anywhere in between him picking you up and going to the Doral Oaks Apartments?
Meaning,
Did you go anywhere?
No.
Okay.
no,
So the defendant picked you up and you and him went to the apartments?
yes, ma'am.
Was this the first time that you had been to his apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there any discussion before on the phone that that's where you all would hang out that night for the
No.
date?
No,
So when you went to the apartment, you said that you were drinking Hennessy? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
yes, ma'am.
Do you know how many drinks you had?
Oh, probably like 2.
Did the defendant drink any Hennessy?
Yes.
Do you know how many drinks he had?
Probably like 2 too.
And you said that you took some drugs?
Yes,
Who gave you those drugs?
he did.
And who is he, the defendant?
Yes.
And what drugs did he give you?
He gave me Molly.
What is Molly?
It's like an ecstasy drug.
Is it the same exact thing as ecstasy or is it different?
It's different.
Does it affect you the same way? Does a Molly affect you the same way that an ecstasy pill does?
I mean, yes, and it's yes and a no.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
I mean, it make me feel the same way, energy and talkative. Sometimes make you feel sexually.
Do both Molly's and ecstasy pills make you feel sexual?
Yeah.
And how is it that you took this Molly on that night?
Meaning by
Did
mouth?
you took it by mouth,
Yes.
shooting it up, snorting it?
No, by mouth.
How is it that that Molly made you feel that night? Did you feel sexual that night?
Yeah, I did.
Did you and the defendant engage in sex at all that night?
Yes, we did.
And where is it that you had sex with the defendant?
In the room.
In what room?
He presented the room that was his mom's.
He had told you it was his mother's room?
Yes,
What was in that room?
it was a bed.
Was that the only room that had a bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Was anybody else at the apartment that night that you were there?
No.
Did anybody else ever come to the apartment that night that you were there?
No.
Did you spend the night or stay for a few hours and then go home?
I can't recall that I spent the night, but I believe I spent the night. I can't remember.
Do you recall how you got home?
Yes, he took me home.
Do you recall if when he drove you home, if it was still dark out or if it was light out?
I believe he took me home late that morning, the next day morning. It was dark.
Do you recall if you had to work that next day?
I believe I did have to work. I'm not sure, but yes, I believe I had to work because it was on a weekday. Yes.
So you would have had to be at work at 7 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have feelings for the defendant when you?
Yes, I did.
When did you start developing feelings for him?
That night. That night, we had a nice conversation about life and relationships, and I thought we was going to take it further, but no.
When you say that you had a nice conversation about relationships and life, can you go into a little bit more detail about what you talked about?
He sold me a dream. That's what I believe. He sold me a dream.
He sold you a dream?
Yeah. He was like, oh, I make a lot of plenty of money. I'm going to take you, work with me, and stuff like that. And he sold me a dream. That's what I believe.
What did he tell you that he did for a living?
Work on phone towers. Work on phone towers.
Did you think that you were falling in love with him?
Yeah, I did.
You did fall in love with him?
Yeah.
Did you all have any conversation about whether he was dating anybody else that night when you first met him?
When I first met him, and goes back to when he pulled up in the car, I thought he was married because he had a ring on his marriage finger. And I asked him, was he married? And he was like, no. Why did you say that? I was like, because your ring is on your left hand, which is your index finger. I said, is you married? He was like, no, I'm not married. And he told me he was not in no relationship.
Did he ever tell you that he was going through a divorce and he was separated from his wife?
No.
Did he ever talk to you through the entire time that you knew him about a Calissa Kelly?
No.
Did he ever talk to you about a person by the name of Ivy Van?
No.
Every time that you saw him, did you see him in this silver Lexus that you described?
Say it again?
Every time you saw him, did you see him in this silver Lexus that you described?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the first time, strike that, after you spent the night with him, when was the next time you saw the defendant?
That was May 16th, the next time I seen him.
So you didn't see him, do you know how many days passed before May 16th of 2014?
So that was like 2 or 3 days past, I believe. 2 days past.
So let's talk about May 16th of 2014. Did you see Felicia Williams that day?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall when you first saw her on that day?
When I came and picked her up.
I'm sorry?
When I came and picked her up.
Do you know if you had talked to her earlier that day at all?
No, I didn't.
Did you work on that day on May 16th?
Yes, I did.
And did you work your normal shift, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
Back on the first day that you met Granville Ritchie and you went to his apartment that night, did you ever bring up Felicia Williams in your conversations?
That night?
Correct.
No, I mentioned him. I have a godchild. I think he had asked me, I believe he asked me that, do I have any kids? I said, no, I have a godchild. No, I don't have no kids. No, I didn't mention Sugar Plum.
Did you continue to talk to the defendant those 2 or 3 days
Yes.
leading up to May 16th of 2014?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you talk on the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you text back and forth?
Yes, ma'am.
In any of those conversations, did you bring up Felicia Williams?
It was that day I brung up Sugar Plum. I believe that Thursday or that Wednesday, my manager came to me. Someone came to me and said that it was a young girl coming up to the job looking for you and stuff like that. And I think that was the second time she had told me about Sugar Plum coming up to the job. And really, I was going to decide to call HRS and going towards her mother's house because I'm like, I know there's school hours, and I'm like wondering why she's showing up at the job around school hours. And then I called Tim and vented to him.
When you say you called him and vented to him, is that the defendant?
Right.
And did you vent to him about your concern about Felicia coming up to your job?
Correct.
And what was his response when you...
Because I brung it up. I was like, I'm going to call HRS on her mother. And he was like, who you talking about? I'm like, my godchild, she's showing up at my job during school hours. And I'm like, how in the world this child is out the door around this time of day, and then if she's not at school? And he was like, no, don't do that. That might be your gift. You know, you need to care for the child. You know, maybe you need to take her to McDonald's. We need to take her to McDonald's and sit down and talk to her. And I thought about it, I was like, you know what, you're right. Okay, we could do that.
And did this conversation take place with him when you were at work that day on
Yes.
May 16th of 2014?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you got off of work, what was the plan?
First he did offer me to go and get her first. I was like, by the time you come, because he said he was taking his mother to Bradenton to go to work. So I was like, that'd be crazy because I'd be getting off of work at 3 o'clock. So you could just come pick me up at the house and I've been unchanged. And by the time I finished changing, he pulled up.
And what did he pull up in?
The civil lessons.
And so how long had you been home, do you think, before he came to pick you up?
I've been home probably not even 30 minutes.
And how long does it usually take you to get home from work after you get off at 3?
When I ain't had no vehicle at the time, so probably like 5-6 minutes, probably less.
Do you walk home from work?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's when you were staying at your mother's home?
Yes, ma'am.
Was anybody else in the car other than the defendant when he comes to pick you up shortly after 3 o'clock?
No, ma'am.
Had you called Felicia at all to let her know that you were going to be coming to pick her up?
No, ma'am.
So what happened when the defendant comes to pick you up?
He came and picked me up. I got in the car, and we rode around there, and I knocked on the door, and I told Sugar Plum, come on, we're fit to go.
When you say we rode around there, what do you mean?
To Sugar Plum house.
And was Felicia there?
Yes, she was there.
Was anybody else there with her?
Yes.
And who else
2
did
of
you
her other sisters.
Was Jeremicia there?
Which is Fatty Girl?
Yes.
Yes, she was there.
Okay. Did you see Cha Cha there?
No, I did not.
Did Felicia end up going with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Fatty Girl, did she want to come along?
No, Brenda did. The youngest.
And did you allow Brenda to come along?
No, ma'am.
Why is it that you only allowed Sugar Plum to go that day?
Because that's my goddaughter, and I know her mom didn't mind me taking her anywhere. And if her sisters them do try to ride along, it's never be in a car. That would be the first time I ever took Sugar Plum really in a car, because I never had no vehicle. So the activities, if I have activities for Sugar Plum, it'll always be with Sugar Plum. It won't be with the others. If they do come along, they string along with us. If we end up walking down the street or taking the bicycles down the street, and they'll be stringing along.
Were most of the places that you went with Felicia was walking distance?
It was walking distance or riding a bicycle.
Was the church walking distance when you would go there?
No. My mom took us that day.
And What about the activities that would be at your mother's house?
That's walking distance. They'll walk over there.
Okay. When, so did Felicia go and get in the silver Lexus?
Yes, she did.
And did you go get in the silver Lexus?
Yes, I did.
And who was driving?
Granville,
And where were you sitting?
in the front seat,
And where was Felicia sitting?
in the back seat.
When you left Felicia's house, where did you think that you were going to go to?
McDonald's.
Did the defendant drive you to McDonald's?
No, he did not.
Where did you go?
He was riding towards his house, and I'm looking like, I believe he done, I'm not sure that he said that's where he was going, but I know that was not the plan. And when I seen that we was going towards his house, I'm saying in my head, I'm like, she hungry, you know what I'm saying? And he like, oh, he said out of the blue, or my mom cooking. I'm looking like, she's not for to eat your mama food.
Okay, so you knew that Felicia was hungry?
Yeah, I had asked her, was she hungry?
Okay. And you said you were thinking to yourself that you weren't going in the direction of McDonald's.
Right,
Did you
right.
actually say that?
No, I looked at him.
And when you say you looked at him, did you look at him kind of strangely?
Right, yes, I did.
Okay. And so he then told you that his mother was fixing food?
I looked at him strangely, and I forgot I said, I asked her, because I'm looking like we're not going in McDonald's direction, and I asked her, did she eat? And was she hungry? And then she said she only ate a bag of chips. And he was like, oh, my mama cooked. And I'm looking like, his mom, I mean, she not for to eat your mama food. And he took her to Checkers.
And was the Checkers over by his apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that over in Temple Terrace?
Yes.
Now, you said that the last time you had spent time with Granville Ritchie, he had given you a pill. Did you have a pill on this day, on May 16th of 2014 with Granville Ritchie?
14, that Friday.
On that Friday, the 16th?
Yes.
When did you take a pill on that day?
So we got close to almost the destination, which is over in Temple Terrace, which is his house. He showed me while I was in the car. He wiggled the bag, and I'm like, oh, shoot, he got drugs. And I know I went Sugar Plum, and I'm like, oh, my God. So by the time we parked, he gave it to me, and it was in my hand.
So was that already after you had gone to Checkers?
Right.
Okay. So I don't want to skip ahead for a moment. So when you went to Checkers, did all of you eat or only Felicia?
She only ate.
Do you recall what was ordered?
I believe she had got shrimp and fries.
Did she get something to drink?
Yes, she did.
Ms. Wiley, I'm going to show you a Checkers receipt that shows at 3:49 a shrimp box and a medium Sprite were ordered from the Checkers over on North 56th Street. Was that the order that was
Yes, ma'am.
placed
Yes, ma'am.
for Felicia?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure what kind of drink it was, but I know she ordered a drink too with it.
And who placed that order?
I asked Sugar Plum what did she wanted, and she said that's what she had wanted.
Who paid for that food?
Granville.
And was the food given to Felicia?
He paid for it throughout. What you mean
Once you got the food, once he paid, was the food given to Felicia?
Yes.
Did you all stay there? Sometimes Checkers has seating
No,
outside.
we not.
Did you continue on through the drive-through?
Yes, ma'am.
Where is it that you went after you left the Checkers?
Straight to his apartment.
Was that fairly close to the Checkers?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall what time it was that you got to the apartment?
No.
And do you know at that time whether or not Felicia had contacted her mother and let her mother know where she was going or had asked permission?
Yes, ma'am. As soon as we got to the apartments, when I noticed that that's where he was going, I'm like, I said, Sugar Plum, call your mother and let her know that you with me. And I dialed her number, and she let her mother know that she was with me.
Whose number did you dial?
Her mother number.
And what is her mother's name?
Felicia.
Felicia Demerson?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you there when Felicia placed that phone call to her mother?
Yes.
And did you tell Felicia to tell her mother that she was at Doral Oaks apartment?
No, I told her to let her mother know that she's with me.
And she didn't provide any other information?
No, ma'am.
To her mom?
No, ma'am.
So what did you do once you, first let me go back. This apartment complex, it has gate codes?
Yes, ma'am.
And how is it that you got into the gate the first night you met Granville Ritchie?
I believe he typed in the code or he tailgated. I'm not sure.
Do you recall on Friday, May 16th, after you left Checkers, how the defendant got in?
He probably typed in a gate code.
Did you ever see him hold up a card to gain access?
No.
You only ever saw him punch in a code?
Well, when we pulled up, I'm not sure. I know his hand probably went out the window. I'm not sure if he tailgated it or put a gate code in. I couldn't remember.
Okay. So you go to his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Did the three of you go upstairs?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, was his apartment upstairs?
Yes.
On the second floor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what happens when you all go into the apartment?
I know I took the Molly.
I'm sorry?
I took the Molly, the drug that he gave me. We went upstairs. She sat down. She was already proceeding eating in the car. And she finished eating while she was up when we got upstairs. So we had ended up talking. Well, I started talking to her about the stealing part and coming to my job. And you're supposed to be in the house. If you suspended of anything, you're supposed to be in the house because you can get your mother in trouble. And
so let me stop you there for a minute. So where is it that this conversation is taking place within the apartment?
On the couch in front of me.
And you said that you begin to talk to her about stealing.
Correct.
Was there a concern that she was stealing?
Yes.
So what was that concern?
Well, I found out, her family members and her sisters, them always put her down and saying that she a thief and stealing. She was stealing her sister money and buying cell phones, stealing her mama money, buying cell phones. Then that's when I had found out she was a thief. But I didn't blame her. I mean, try to stone her and, because I'm not really her mother. I could just only talk to her and let her know that, hey, that's wrong. You can't be doing that. You could get people in trouble. Was
there any conversation with the defendant about that?
Yes.
And was he there when that conversation took place?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did he partake in that conversation?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did he partake in that conversation?
He jumped in and said, "If I leave some money right here on the couch, would you get it?" And Sugar Plum said, "Maybe." And I was like, "No, she won't. She won't touch your money. She won't touch your money."
And you said that there was also conversation about if she was suspended from school, that she needed to stay at home.
Right, she needed to stay at home.
Was there conversation, you had stated earlier that you were concerned about her coming up to your job. Was there a conversation with her about that?
Just a little bit. I just let her know that if you know that you're supposed to be in the house, then you can't be coming up to my job like that. And especially if it's school hours. And I let her know.
When you took the Molly on this day, did this Molly make you feel sexual at all on the 16th?
It's controllable. Yeah, later on that night it did.
Okay. Did you remain at the apartment with Felicia and the defendant?
When?
After you got there after Checkers?
Yeah, I did.
How long were you there for?
I was there for like 10, 15 minutes. That's when he went in the kitchen and he told me to come here. And as soon as I got up, that's when I felt under the influence. And he was
when
like...
you say you felt under the influence,
I felt the Molly kicking in. I felt high. I started feeling high. So that's when he was like, I went in the kitchen and he was like, do you know a way to get some weed from him? I was like, yeah. So I called my granddaddy and asked him, do he know who had some weed? And he was like, yeah, I know who got some weed, which is Windermere. And he's like, come to my house and he'll be over there.
On the first night that you were there, the first night you met him, was there any marijuana smoking going on that night?
Yeah, he was smoking.
The defendant was smoking?
Yes.
Do you smoke marijuana?
No.
On the day that you were there speaking with Felicia, did you smoke any marijuana that day?
No.
Did you see the defendant smoke marijuana when you originally first got there that
No.
day? So he asked if you knew where you could get some marijuana?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you think you would be able to get him some marijuana?
Yeah.
So what happened after you called your grandfather?
He told me to come over there to his house.
And did you go over to your grandfather's house?
Yes, I did.
Did all three of you go to your grandfather's house?
No, ma'am.
So where did Felicia go when you went to your grandfather's
So
house?
when I confirmed with him that, my granddaddy got some weed over there, I asked, I told Felicia to come on, which is Sugar Plum. I told her to come on, and he was like, no, you don't have no license, and you finna go and get some weed so I could watch her. And I asked Sugar Plum, and she was okay, and she said, yeah. And I said, I'll be right back.
So it was the defendant's decision for you to keep her there so that she wouldn't be in a car with you who didn't have a license or
Yes, ma'am.
who had marijuana.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you concerned at all about leaving her with somebody that she had never met before?
No, I wasn't concerned. I was and I wasn't concerned. Because how he made me feel comfortable on the first night I met him, and how he made me feel when we went to go and pick up Sugar Plum. So it was like he had that concern of like a father figure. Like, that's how I felt.
So how is it that you got to your grandfather's house?
He told me to drive his car.
Meaning the silver Lexus?
Yes.
So you take the silver Lexus and you go to your grandfather's house?
Yes.
How far is your grandfather's house from the apartment?
Probably like 20 minutes.
I'm sorry?
20 minutes.
Do you remember what road you went on?
I went, while I was looking back, I went down 56. Then I took Martin Luther King. I made a right on Martin Luther King. And then I turned on, my granddad stayed on Lindale Street, so instead of going all the way down to 34th and making that left on 34th, I went down a back road to get on my granddad Street, which is Lindale.
Lindell?
Yes.
Were you still under the influence of
Yes.
that Molly?
Yes, I was.
Were you still having effects of feeling high at that time?
Say it again?
Were you still feeling high at that time?
Yes.
That you were driving there?
Yes.
Did you arrive at your grandfather's house?
Yes, I did.
And who is it that you got the marijuana from on that day?
From Windermere.
From who?
Windermere, I call him Mo.
You call him Mo. Does he also go by Waldemar Vernon?
Yes.
And where is it that you met Mo when you got to your grandfather's house?
I met him at my granddad's house.
Inside, outside?
Outside.
And what happens when you get there?
He pulled up. I believe that he was there before me. I think I pulled up before him. And I just gave him the $20 bill. He gave me the weed, and I left.
Do you recall if you took had any conversation with Mo at that time or anything like that?
No. It was probably a giggle and laugh, or I got to go, and I left.
So where is it that you went after you picked up the marijuana?
I went straight back.
Straight back to the apartment?
Towards the apartments, yes, ma'am.
So, it's 3:22, so we probably need to take a quick break. So, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, we're going to take, this will be our one afternoon recess. We'll take about a 10-minute break, and we will be back with you. So, it's 3:20 now. We'll say no later than 3:35, okay?
All rise, jury exiting. I'll give you notes in here.
Okay, very good. The jury's left the courtroom. Ms. Wiley, since you are on the stand and have not yet been cross-examined, you have to stay on the witness stand. You can
Okay.
go down during the break, but the
Yes,
one
ma'am.
thing you cannot do is talk to anybody, including the prosecutors, about anything related to this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? All right, I'll be back in about 10 minutes, all right?
Your Honor, I just
She
need
said
counsel.
stay on.
I brought the records custodian back from Metro PCS. I forgot to ask him something. I need to ask him, that his flight's at 6. Would it be okay if I call him briefly?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Love you all.